So finally, the long-awaited Battlefield 1 weapon balance update is here. I've got plenty of videos coming over the next few days, covering off some of the weapons that have changed the most, some of them that are now really competitive and viable for you to use, and I'll be unearthing some hidden gems as well. But today, I want to start with the Ribeyrolles carbine because I think this is now arguably the most versatile assault weapon in Battlefield 1. The Ribeyrolles, which is a carbine but it's balanced just like every other SMG, got some improvements in this patch along with every other SMG. It's had its damage output increased at short and long range, reducing the number of bullets you need to land on your target to secure a kill by 1. Now, 1 bullet might not sound like a lot, but trust me, in practice and in live servers, I've played about 10 rounds so far today, it does make a huge difference. In close quarters, where SMGs are supposed to dominate, the fact that you can kill somebody with 1 less bullet now, that means a shorter overall time where you're having to concentrate on that one gunfight, and you get more time to switch your focus back to everything else that's going on around you. You can react faster to dangers nearby and deal damage quicker than you could before, because of course the bullets do more damage, and it gives you the ability to potentially kill more than 1 player before you have to reload. SMGs like the Ribeyrolles and the MP18, they suffered somewhat before this patch, where the bullet damage drop-off was so severe that outside sort of 18 to 20 meters, if you did manage to kill a player, likely you would have used so many bullets that you had no choice but to reload, and often then you'd get caught out by an enemy and killed by them. In my opinion now, with this update, SMG gunplay is much better than what it was before. Now specifically, the Ribeyrolles, it has an attachment that enables it to reach out further than other SMGs. That's the Bipod, and that alone is enough for me to recommend this SMG to all assault players who are kind of looking for that jack of all trades option. A weapon that can perform well in any engagement, one that's versatile enough to be powerful in close quarters, but has got enough damage and range to compete with medic rifles and LMGs a little bit further out. As I mentioned, at close range you're seeing a significant damage increase per bullet fired. If you tie that in with the rate of fire of the Ribeyrolles, which is 550 rounds a minute, the overall damage potential is now extremely high. That is the same for all SMGs, however. All of them, including the Hellriegel, did get a damage increase, and that also means the Automatico got one, although it does stand separate and it was balanced in a totally different way, and I'll probably talk about that in another video later on in the week. It's the added effect, however, of the Ribeyrolles Bipod that has elevated this SMG above all others in terms of versatility. At medium to long range, the SMGs in general will start to suffer from increased bullet spread and recoil, making it harder for you to hit players. This is DICE's new balancing system kicking in, a hell of a lot more than it used to in the old system. It's giving you a subtle reminder that the weapon you're holding is not really designed for that gunfight range that you're trying to put it in. With most SMGs, it's advisable to stick to close-range engagements with the potential for stretching into that 25 to 30 meter range, where you can still do a little bit of damage, but you will be using a lot of your bullets. With the Ribeyrolles, however, that is a totally different situation. You have the Bipod, which when deployed, removes a lot of that recoil and bullet spread that other SMGs at that kind of range would suffer with, and it focuses your fire far more accurately than any other SMG at that kind of range. You can prone down and bring down players sort of 40, 50, 60 meters and further if you're able to control the spread, and at extreme ranges, sort of around 80 to 100 meters, you can kind of tickle enemies a little bit, or maybe just finish off a very weak enemy in the distance. But you're going to want to stick to mid-range with that Bipod. From the 5 or so rounds that I played with the Ribeyrolles this morning, I found it to be most effective bipoded up behind cover, looking down a line of sight and taking down enemies in the mid-range, where usually LMGs and medic rifles would be expected to win. What the Ribeyrolles has essentially become is a direct opposite to the Automatico, even more so than before this patch was applied, where I still like using this weapon at mid-range bipoded anyway. The Automatico is built as an extreme close range, high spread, high recoil, high rate of fire SMG designed to combat the shotguns on their own turf. The Ribeyrolles is a mid-range, low spread, low recoil SMG when bipoded, which can at mid-range go toe-to-toe with LMGs on their own turf. Although both weapons still technically work best in their optimal engagement range, which is close range, both the Automatico and more specifically now the Ribeyrolles, they blur the lines of the assault class a hell of a lot more than they did before this patch even came out. They were definitely outliers before the patch, but I would say they're even better at what they do now after the patch. With all that said, however, it's not like the Ribeyrolles is becoming the next Battlefield 1 god gun. It's actually a far stretch from being a god gun because there are certain scenarios where it just doesn't perform well at all, and that is the balancing feature. Every weapon has to have some advantages and disadvantages. Now, you're likely going to have a lot less success in mid-range combat if you are not using the bipod. I myself had plenty of encounters at mid-range in those 5 rounds that I played this morning, where I'd come out of a close-range gunfight, having won it, feeling really confident that the weapon could do what I wanted it to do. I started to fire the Ribeyrolles at a medic that was 30 or so meters out, and I would lose. Without the bipod being deployed, the Ribeyrolles is just so far out of its depth in mid-range as the MP18 or the SMG08 would be. The spread increase after every shot fired, and the recoil upwards specifically with the Ribeyrolles, can be quite difficult to control. I'm not saying it's impossible to win a gunfight in the mid-range with the Ribeyrolles, because if you are able to keep the recoil under control and use longer bursts of say 5 to 7 bullets, you can do some serious damage to enemies and bring them down as well. Of course, if that person isn't shooting back at you, all you need to do is control the recoil and the spread, and you should be able to win the gunfight without any issue whatsoever. It's when you're engaged in an active gunfight where the enemy at mid-range is firing back at you, maybe with an LMG or a medic rifle, that's where you're going to struggle. And I need to give DICE credit here because they do deserve it. That's exactly how I expect SMGs to perform in Battlefield 1. We all know that they're designed to work well at close range, and that's where they are most effective. The Ribeyrolles can perform well at mid-range with the bipod deployed, but its limitations start to show when you engage yourself in mid-range gunfights without the bipod. The spread and recoil mechanics kick back in, and they let you know that this is not how the weapon was really intended to be used. So when I tell you guys now that I think the Ribeyrolles is the most versatile SMG in Battlefield 1, I'm referring to its extended abilities, the ones that give you a fighting chance in gunfights outside of close quarters. If you're an assault player who likes a little bit more distance in their gunfights, a bit more control, or somebody who just doesn't want to use the hipfire capabilities of other SMGs at close range, then the Ribeyrolles is for you. It's accurate when you aim down the sights, and it has an extremely powerful bipod attachment for accurate mid to long range shooting. If I was to compare it to something from previous Battlefield games in the past, I would now compare the Ribeyrolles to some of the assault rifles in Battlefield 4. At mid-range you can do really well, at long range you start to suffer quite a lot, and at close range you are extremely powerful. Now, one further point I would like to mention in this video, and I will repeat this a couple of times throughout the week, some players have been complaining that many of the DLC guns in Battlefield 1 are now much better than they were before, and some people are calling these changes pay to win. Now, what's important to understand is that all weapons within their categories, the SMGs, the shotguns, the medic rifles, and the LMGs, all of them are being changed. It's not simply DLC weapons getting better. Once the patch notes are live on the Battlefield 1 website, I will tweet out a link to those so that you can all read the changes if you want to, and it will give you a much bigger overview of, admittedly, this massive weapon balance update. But there you are. I believe now the Ribeyrolles is the most versatile SMG that you can choose in Battlefield 1. I'd like to get your thoughts on this opinion down below in the comments section today, and in general, your thoughts and opinions on the weapon balance update. I'm sure it's going to divide opinion, so make sure you leave yours down below, and I'm going to be down there reading and replying to as many as I can. This definitely is the biggest update to Battlefield 1 so far, and the developers need feedback on it outside of the CTE, where it's been active for a long time, because further changes in the future could be made if the community feels that that's what needs to happen. But thank you very much for watching, and until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.